What's up, everyone, and welcome back. So, on today's figure review, we're going to be taking a look at the 2021 Anguirus from the animated series Godzilla Singular Point. And without further ado, let's take a close up look at this incarnation of Anguirus. So, as you can see, he's a lot different from his previous incarnations, but more or less recognizable as Anguirus himself. So here, his legs can move. Well, the front ones, I should say, can rotate, as you saw there. It can rotate all the way around. As for his back legs, well, that may be a different or similar story. And yep. So all four of his legs, they can rotate all the way around. Probably his back legs are just going to be a little bit more trickier, as right here, trying to push it back, but because of his flap right here is kind of in the way to you to rotate it back to the front. So it's probably best to go front and then back. And then as for the tail, you can rotate that with ease all the way around. As far as with the head, there's really no rotation with the head. So you have the legs and you have the tail that can be moved throughout his body. As far as with the detail of the paint job on this Anguirus figure, he's a mix of, well, for starters, underneath on his belly, up to the tail, a very maroon-ish color. And for his body, it's like between a light brown and a tan color. And as for his spikes, I would say a very light yellow color, or not too sure what kind of other name of a lighter shade of yellow there would be, but I would say close to being a very light yellow color, to where I'm sure it's much more visually much more of a yellow color in the animated series. Now, as far as a close-up of the eye is kind of a little bit of a... Let me go ahead and fix that. Whoops, sorry about that. Like almost like a maroon color, or a light pinkish color with the... Well, yeah, that's the only other color that is on his face besides the brown and the yellow of his teeth, the horns, and then his brownish face. As far as the design goes for this 2021 Anguirus figure from Godzilla Singular Point, He's much more of his back a little bit more hunched up, as the lower half of his body, it's lower and then it rises up more to where his spikes are much more pointier as a, well, in general, all around on his back up to his tail, and of course more on his head and on his knees, if you will. He has much pointy knees now, and even right here, a pointy neck. And then something interesting too, as I mentioned before, about these flaps back here, that I believe that originally that was in, I believe, Godzilla Raids Again, for the design of Anguirus, that originally he was going to have like these two flaps on his back of his spiky body. But of course you can look further into that. But I guess for when they designed this Anguirus, that they just like having those small flaps to be here at the bottom. And there we have a very big Anguirus. Very spiky Anguirus. But okay, well now we're going to go ahead and proceed to move on to do size comparisons with other figures. All right, and first up here we have the Singular Point Anguirus next to the Showa era Anguirus here on the right hand side. And as you can see, Anguirus has definitely come a long way. And right off the bat, you can tell that Anguirus from Singular Point is bigger than the Showa era Anguirus figure, and has a much more different, if you will, appearance than its original incarnation. And yep, you can see that the Singular Point Anguirus, he is longer. Definitely has a larger body, but then also the Showa era Anguirus has a much more larger head as compared to with the Singular Point Anguirus. And one more thing to mention is that the tip of their tails are different, as Anguirus just only has spikes at the tip of his tail. Sorry, this Anguirus has only spikes at the tip of his tail. But for the Singular Point Anguirus, he does have spikes at the tip of his tail, but his tip at the end of his tail is much more spikier and, of course, sharper, to where it has a point where there's literally spikes coming off of each other. But alright, we're going to go ahead and bring in the next figure. Alright, and what do you know? We got ourselves another Anguirus figure. So here, this time, we have the Singular Point Anguirus next to the Final Wars Anguirus from the 2004 film Godzilla Final Wars. And this time, they are looking to be sizing up each other pretty well this time. And let's go ahead and see the lengthwise. So I'd say they're also close. Oops, sorry about that. Also pretty close from head to toe on their length. And they both have, well, not similarly, but just different at the end of the tip of their tail, where it's more like they can use as a weapon, to where it's much more spikier and where it's not just an obvious end of their tail. But this Anguirus from the Final Wars is more looking like his end of the tail is more of the dinosaur. I believe and forgive me if I'm wrong, or if I get the name wrong, or pronouncing it, the Ankylosaurus. I think that's what that dinosaur is called. But the one that has a club-like tail at the end of its body. But yeah, they definitely look like they could go toe-to-toe with one another as well. So now, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next figure. And alright, last but not least, here we have Anguirus next to the Bandai creation Godzilla 1968. And a much more side-by-side comparison. Yep, definitely can see this version of Anguirus definitely taking on this Godzilla, or for that fact of the matter being any kind of Godzilla. But I'll leave that up for you to decide if you think this Anguirus can take on this version of Godzilla. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and pass this to Fierce Zilla Jr. now. Alright, Fierce Zilla Jr., do you have any final thoughts? Want to take us back to the island? Anything new going on with your life today? Oh yeah, you're right. We got to continue where we left off at the end of yesterday's video. You're right. Okay, let's go ahead and proceed to that now.
you